All right, guys, welcome in to the 5-day Wealth Op Challenge, day 2, where we are helping first responders get on their path to retirement in 10 years or less with my incredible husband, Michael Peel, first responder, and Ramie Khalil, our financial advisor. I'm really excited to jump in today. And I get to share a little bit more of why I'm excited to be doing this challenge because as the wife of a man who went from a career as a chief financial officer to a first responder, it definitely had some impact on me as well. And so I'm excited to jump into that in just a second. But I want to remind us today of where we are going. So, just as a quick reminder, day 2, we are going to be talking about busting the myths about your pensions. We're going to be helping you guys understand how to master cash flow and leverage assets properly, as well as discover the hidden truth about your 457B deferred compensation plan and start to understand your number. This is a conversation I know for a fact that you guys are really going to enjoy. Ramie's going to walk us through this today, and it is incredibly powerful. So I'm excited to talk about that in just a second. We're also going to talk about uncovering the potential risks you don't see, and then how you can shift from passive investing to active investing, which is a total game changer. So I'm going to talk to you guys just for a quick second about understanding your number. For us, this was really important because back in, 2017, when we were really debating and having this conversation, we had kind of like pinnacled in our relationship. I'm a pretty strong-willed, stubborn person, and my husband so loves me. He's standing behind me laughing, or in front of me laughing. He so loves me so much that he was just willing to like let me have my way. And little did I know how important it was for him to chase after his dream. And this was something, I remember back all the way to 2005. We were actually sitting on a curb in front of his mom's house on Innsbrook Driveway. Innsbrook, and we were, gazing up at the stars as all brand new, romantically involved people do, talking about our future. And I remember him telling me how proud he was of his family who were first responders. And in my head, I was like, that's cool, but I mean, it doesn't really impact my life. And so he talked about his grandpa Skip and how he was a correction officer, and his uncle who was I'm like CFO, Chip, help me, CHP. I'm like, okay, a CHP. And so he was talking about his, stepbrother who was in the military, and he was just so proud of the career paths that they had chosen and how honorable they were, and how much he felt like they got to go to work every single day and help people. If you know my husband, which many of you probably do because you are personally invited, you know that his passion to help people is tremendous. It is one of his most favorite things to do. And so I could see this passion in him in conversations we had all the way back in 2005. And I never wanted to be married to a first responder. It felt really dangerous. It felt like it was honestly, selfishly going to really impact me. And the reality is it has. And I've had an opportunity to really grow and become an incredible person through the process of watching him chase after, pursue, and obtain his dream. And one of the reasons we were able to do that was because at the time we knew our numbers. Like I said, he was in the financial profession, and he was really great around numbers and billing spreadsheets and all of that kind of stuff. And so he knew what we could and couldn't do, and he knew the risk we could take because of the things we had established, the storage facilities we had, the investments accounts that we had, and he knew what we had in place. So he knew when he made that giant leap from CFO to first responder that we were going to be okay. And at the time, I remember thinking like, this doesn't feel okay. My spending had to get cut a lot. I wasn't feeling like I was living the life I was called to live. If you were on yesterday, Ramie talked about the definition of wealth and how in that is making sure you have enough income to live the life you feel like you are called to live. And so I was really feeling the squeeze of that. And when he was in Fire Academy, is when we originally met Ram and Shell. And we got into this conversation with them. And I'm so thankful for Ramie and his massive amount of wisdom in this area of wealth and finance creation, because he really helped us design the life that we wanted, the life I felt like I was called to live, not feeling like I had to worry about every single penny going out the door, or if we were going to be able to, live in a nice facility when we were old and our kid didn't want to take care of us anymore, or whatever the situation was going to be. What would it look like to have health care? As an entrepreneur, I know what it feels like to have my own health care. And so it's like, are we going to have money to spend $2,000 a month on healthcare as we're aging and have things come up? And Ramie really helped us in this realization moment for me of, I know that there's more available. And so Ramie helped us structure and find the new number that felt really good for both of us, and kind of identify what that was going to look like to really understand where we had high risk that wasn't necessary, and where we could maybe even risk a little bit more. And so the way he showed up and really helped us was very profound in setting us up for a future and a successful future that I look forward to. I anticipate with excitement waking up every day because I love the life we've created. We've done it with intention and purpose, and I love getting to do life alongside of my husband. We get to enjoy it now, and having friends like Ramie, it's really beneficial. So I'm excited for you guys to hear from him today on that topic. And I, of course, am excited to just be here and help you guys as first responders, or if you're a first responder family member, watching and participating in this, sharing more of our story, sharing more of the parts and the things that we've learned and gone through. Because to be honest with you, we fought for a lot. Like and not us fighting, but we fought to gain a lot of ground and take a lot of territory. And it wasn't just for us. At the time, we didn't know that it was for you too, but now we do. Now we know that it is for you too. And so pulling together the resources, and especially Ramie, is like just a secret weapon. You guys are going to love hearing from him today. But before we pass it over to Ramie, I want to invite Michael to come walk back over here next to me. And and he's just going to recap for us yesterday, some of the things that we learned from yesterday. So I'm going to go ahead and share this back up and pass it over to you and let you kind of debrief us and remind us about what day one was all about.
Thank you, love. I appreciate that. Yeah, quite a story, guys. I do have a lot of history as far as family and first responder, that career field. But it did take a lot, and like Holly said, she's been pretty transparent. We battled because it wasn't necessarily that she wasn't supportive at all. It was a much different career. So taking half the income and actually moving to this industry was a big challenge and a big change. But we actually had the ability to do it. And we knew our number at the time, but I will talk a little bit further about knowing your real number for retirement is knowing your current number just to live on. So let's go back in the debrief really quick, and then we'll come back to that topic. Let's see. How do I go back to my slides? Okay, so this was really good. So if you do not have a pen and paper, please grab one right now. This definition is absolutely wonderful, and this should have quotes around it, but this was Ramie yesterday. The definition of wealth: and when a person has enough income or financial resources to live the life they feel called to live without the fear of running out of money. All right, this is not just simply, do I have enough money in my account? Do I have a pension or deferred comp? Does my spouse have a 401k? This is really understanding if we're creating wealth that's going to surpass not only my current spending needs. Real wealth is going to actually create and give you a lifestyle you want, but we're talking the words like generational wealth. How do I create wealth that's going to supersede my life How do I play the tax game correctly? How do I actually pass down an inheritance and really build the foundation for my kids or even my grandkids to build upon? So this is our wealth definition. So if you want a moment, take a moment, write it down. Again, when a person has enough income, financial resources to live the life they feel called to live without the fear of running out of money. And as we're talking about knowing a number, when we first met Ram and we kind of had the conversation, Ram got straight to it. Is like, hey, Mike, what's your number? I'm like, what do you mean? What's my number? This is what I make. These are my investment accounts. This is, what I expect to see in retirement. It's like, no, but what's your real number? And he started challenging me on this and he went right to it. He's like, what do you really want? What do you want to live on in retirement? What do you want to build? What do you want to pass down to the next generation? And I looked at him like, I don't really know my number. I know I want to make money and I know I want to build wealth and I want to create a legacy, but I don't really know what that is. And so he really challenged me. He's like, hey, if we don't even have a target to set, or if we don't have something to actually chase after and a target to acquire, how are you ever going to get there? How are you going to know when you hit your number? And if you don't know if you hit your number, how can you ever have peace of mind or actually some level of comfort that you're heading the right direction, you're making progress, or you've actually achieved it? If you don't have a number and you have no target, then you're just continuing to run the race that doesn't ever feel like you're winning or gaining ground, or you may never feel like you ever reach that goal. So knowing our number is absolutely critical. So I love that definition of wealth. And let's go to the other couple points I want to highlight, which is right here. This was really good. This was another quote too. Information you don't implement, you do not actually learn. This is critical, guys. We can sit here all day, have an amazing workshop, a free challenge. We've got a book that you guys are going to get first access to. All that stuff's great. And information's wonderful. But if you don't implement it, what's the point? Just like your career, right? You've gone through, whether it's like academies, field training, you've gone through probably enormous like continuing education. All this information is awesome, but if you don't implement those tactics, those strategies, whether it's something from fire attack to patrol strategies to how you're going to tactically, hit a house, how you're going to handle maybe a critical incident, and you're on an ambulance and you've got to approach from a certain direction. All this information is great. All these tactics, all these strategies, all these things are awesome. But if you don't implement them, really, what's the point? And you're not going to really help yourself succeed forward. So if you don't actually implement that information, you're not actually learning. So what you're going to learn and information you're going to receive this week is great, but our goal is to implement it. So as I mentioned a couple of times, grab a pen, grab a paper. Let's actually put some goals down and implement these things that you're learning this week. We talked about wealth vehicles. So whether that is paper assets, commodities, businesses, real estate. So these are different vehicles that we're going to use to actually create wealth. I'll be super transparent with you guys. This is kind of a hard topic in times because people talk about wealth vehicles, which are great, but they look at it like, hey, I've got a great job, I'm building retirement. At the end of the day, and if no one's ever told you this, if you were just going to job, W-2 income, getting a paycheck, you're really not creating wealth. And if no one's ever told you that, I'm sorry. If we are working for somebody else, we're generally creating wealth for that person. Maybe it's a municipality. We're creating or saving money for that city, whether it's taxpayer money, but we're not going to create wealth for us as a family. So part of this wealth op is to give you an op plan to say, hey, there's nothing wrong with going to work and getting a W-2 job, even if you're a 1099 employee or you're in this industry and you've got some contract that you're working under. But we also are going to give you the other steps to actually create wealth. That's why we're calling it the wealth op, like an operation plan for your finances. Hey, we can go to work is great, but let's follow these other steps, 1 through 10, and let's actually build real generational wealth, leaving a legacy. So it's important to understand if you just go to work doing nothing else, very, very small chance you're going to create real wealth. Okay. So let's follow the steps together. That's what we're going through this week. All this information is out there. We're just trying to spread this message because our goal is to create a movement. As we talked about our transition, or my transition from the financial industry, 15 plus years dealing with high net worth individuals, nonprofits, big corporate accounts, chief financial officer, all these titles are great. But when I got to this industry, I'm the one who had the conversations with all these first responders. And I've got people literally crying saying, I can't get out of debt. I can't really do anything with my family because I'm stuck in this overtime cycle. My wife and I are having a really hard time because we can't make the bills. Now we're fighting. We're probably going to separate. I don't see my kids at all because back to the overtime thing, I'm stuck doing this cycle. So I've had these conversations and I realized there's such a need to actually bring this information to the first responder industry. The sad part is some of the information we've received is either maybe incorrect or maybe just slightly misguided. So it's put us years behind the 8 ball. But if you do follow the steps of this wealth op, you actually can create real generational wealth. So it's really important. This is something I'm passionate about. I do want to continue to serve my community. Where I work for my department is great, but my belief system to my core is if we can actually change the financial situation for first responders, help them with not only things like their bills, help them create a retirement that's really something they can live and enjoy, help them create wealth, help them with the tax game. It can actually restore and repair some of the marriages and the relationship with kids. They show up better at work because they don't have the stress or the burden on their shoulders, and they can actually serve the community better. So these are our beliefs as far as building this wealth op out. So wealth vehicles we talked about, and then knowing your number. Okay, so Holly touched on this, and I'll transition to Ram shortly. We knew our number at the time when we transitioned into this industry, and everything went smooth. It was tight, but we made it work because we were able to. But when he asked me that question, 5-6 years ago, what's your number? I didn't really know. And this is where it's like having the very, very honest conversation with yourself. If you're married with your spouse, hey, what is our real number to create wealth as we've defined and actually really enjoy retirement and leave something for my family and my kids? If you don't have kids, other dependents possibly. If you just want to give it all to charity, that's fine too. But you still need to know your number to actually live comfortably after you service this career. And if you choose to, in the 5-10 year time frame from now, if we're following this plan accordingly, you actually could say, hey, I'm done and I'm out. If I'm working because it's on my terms and not because I have to. So when he asked me what my number was, I couldn't really tell him. So we're going to actually talk about that a little bit more, talking about some of the myths in the pension. Holly kind of went over some of this too. So let's specifically go into, how to figure out and maybe work on your number. I'm going to pass it actually to Ramie. Because he's the one who started us on this course. Without him, we wouldn't be where we're at today, because not only did he challenge me, he asked me the real raw questions that I either didn't know to ask myself or maybe was too afraid to. But without him, we wouldn't be where we're at today. And this is where I can truly say when he helped us come in and correct our finances and look at money and finances and wealth from a different perspective, he actually put us on a track to really achieve our goals. So Ramie, if you are there, I will let you jump in. Everyone, this is Ramie Khalil. Again, he is one of the most brilliant people I know, completely changed our life for the better, helped restructure all of our finances, and his passion to help first responders is right up there with mine. So Ramie, if you can hear us, I will let you jump in and take it away.
I can hear you. Can you hear me, Mike?
Oh, yes, I can. Here we go.
Awesome. Well, hey guys, welcome back to day 2. I'm super excited to be here with you guys and really actually start to get into the strategy part of the Wealth Op Challenge. This is where I'm going to start to actually give you guys I'm going to throw some frameworks and some actual action steps at you for you to be able to do and follow along. Because guys, what I'm going to share with you today is really what we do in financial planning. When you sit down with an investment advisor, a financial planner, and you're actually engaging in how do I build a strategy, you're coming to the table with your, what I call financial junk drawer, right? The statements of your accounts, your retirement accounts, your previous retirement accounts, maybe past investment accounts that you have all of these different things that you're bringing to the table. And the reality is you want to take these different elements and create a clear picture of where you are, why you're there, and what you need to do to get to where you want to be. And so when we're doing that, I always anchor the conversation for my clients around this question of, do you actually know your number? Guys, you'd be surprised how many first responders, do not actually know their numbers. It's not unique just to first responders. This is something that we see in financial planning with most people that walk in the office. It's funny because we always say, most folks say, when I have money, I'll go work with an advisor. And then, once I have money and wealth, then I'll go get a financial planner. But if you don't have a financial plan, it's very hard to create wealth. And so the reality is that when I sit down with people and I'm asking them this question, it's critical because it allows you to not put the cart before the horse. Okay. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share some things with you guys. And instead of having some, instead of going through 20, 30, 40 different slides, guys, I'm going to share some concepts and strategies with you on a whiteboard that I want you to follow along with. Okay. And it's very important because what I'm going to show you today is the actual initial premise, the assumptions that are made when it comes to how you are building and investing today. What you're doing in your 401ks, your 457s, are built off of these assumptions and these numbers that you're about to see. And then I'm going to share with you why it's important to understand this so that you can actually answer the question today. What is my number? That is something you're going to need to answer. And then you're going to need to answer, is the path that I'm currently on going to help me get there in the time frame that I want it to help me get there in? Okay, so we're going to put this together. And so I'm going to share my screen. We're going to talk about this, guys. And to start, I'm going to go to, I'm going to share my whiteboard here. Now, here's the disclosure. Here's my disclaimer, I should say. Guys, I am not an art major. So Mike and Hall have mentioned, when it comes to the financial element of what I do as an advisor, I'm not an art major. So these aren't going to be pretty, but that's okay, because I want you guys to get the point. But I want to actually kind of map this out with you together, so that you can kind of see this. You see, when it comes to investing, and Hall, Mike, I don't know if you guys can hear me, but if you can, let me know, because I can't see you guys, if you can see my screen. I think you guys can.
Yeah, it's showing perfectly, Ron.
Perfect, guys. And so, guys, here's the reality when it comes to investing and when it comes to this conversation of building wealth. And we talked about that definition of wealth, right? Having the resources you need, financial resources, to live the life you want to live without the fear of running out of money. Some people, guys, I actually just, and obviously everything I do with clients is confidential, but I just came out of a couple of meetings this morning with some clients who are retired, who in retirement have substantial assets, but they have the assets to live the life they want to live. But here's the kicker. They don't have, or they have fear of running out of money. So they have assets, but they also have fear. And they have substantial assets relative to their lifestyle to where they should not have fear, but they do. And because they have fear, they are stressed. You might ask yourself, how is it that someone has millions of dollars, they are living within their means, and instead of being retired and free, again, they are stressed. They have anxiety. They're watching the news. They're looking at those accounts. Every time the account goes down in value, they get nervous. And so for someone like that, they're not truly wealthy because they still have fear. And that fear comes from a lack of having awareness and having a plan. Understanding that as the market, as the financial markets, the stock market, the real estate market, the business cycles, as the markets of these different markets go through ups and downs, they don't understand what their life is going to look like in the good times and the bad times. And without that awareness, without understanding, what does it mean if real estate goes down, if the stock market goes down? How does that impact me? What's going to happen to my income, to my wealth? Without that, it provides a lack of clarity, and that lack of clarity creates a blind spot. And when you have financial blind spots, guys, that is where fear lives. The fear of running out of money. The fear of not actually being able to take care of your family. The fear of having to work all the way through the rest of your life, right? So that's the point of this challenge, guys, is we're going to eliminate that, because I'm going to literally give you guys the frameworks today and throughout the rest of this this week that we use to help clients actually create a tactical wealth plan that allows them to have peace of mind. So when it comes to knowing your number and why this is important is because there are two sides to investing. Okay. You guys have to know, guys, every single one of you on this webinar goes through three specific phases in your life. The accumulation phase, where your body's at work and you are trading time for money. And with that money, outside of establishing a lifestyle today, hopefully you are saving and investing for tomorrow, right? For different goals, maybe to purchase a home, maybe to save for retirement, maybe to save for investment property, maybe to save for college for your kids. But you establish a lifestyle in accumulation, your body at work, you save and invest for the future, and you hopefully implement some level of protection so that you distance yourself from the risk of loss. Those are the three main goals people have when it comes to what they do with their money in phase one. What happens is one day you transition from phase one, accumulation, to phase two, distribution. Distribution is now your body at rest and your money is at work. Your wealth is working to provide for you. All of a sudden, the goal on distribution is not about growth and accumulation. It's about the ability for those assets to produce income so that you do not have to put your body at work. And whether or not you love what you do, here's something I can promise you guys. Every single person I've met, over thousands of people, guys, hits a point in their life where they start to face their mortality. The fact that they may not want to have to produce this much, they may not want to have to constantly have to give this much level of time and energy to the things that they've been doing, and that they better have a plan where wealth can be there to help them so that they actually can transition into distribution. And then the last phase we go from body at work to dollars at work to no more body. This is the transfer phase. This is where whatever you've created, your estate, is being transferred to your beneficiaries. But the point of me sharing this today, and why this is tied to knowing your numbers, guys, is because accumulation, money, is always tied to purpose and timing. Money is always tied to purpose and timing. And when I met Mike and Hall, what was so interesting is I was like, here's a couple that are working, have careers, very busy, don't have a lot of time, comes from a financial background, is building assets that produce income, and is chosen to go work as a law enforcement officer, as a first responder. And so I was curious as to why is that? Tell me what it is you're after. What are you looking to do? Why are you here? And when it comes to investing for the future, guys, most people simply save and invest in a very, and I said this yesterday, in a very kind of arbitrary, subconscious way where they're just kind of putting money away in these retirement accounts and hoping that the value grows large enough to one day be able to live off of it. Oh, my pen doesn't want to work. But here's the reality, guys. What you will learn very quickly. Okay, accumulation and distribution are like mountain climbing. If you decided that you wanted to climb mountains and you said, I'm going to hire a guy to teach me how to climb mountains. And let's say you wanted to climb Mount Everest. And you decided that you were going to go hire a guide, and these folks are called Sherpas. And you hired someone and you guys trained for however long it takes to train, and off you went on your journey to climb Mount Everest because you hired a coach or someone that said, hey, we have a 100% track record of getting every one of our clients to the top of the mountain safely. And off you went. And true to their word, imagine for a moment being at the top of Mount Everest, you and your guide, you actually made it. And they told you, hey, congratulations, Sam. Congratulations, Mike. Congratulations, Holly. Here you are. I told you you'd make it. Hey, by the way, I hope you have a great rest of your trip. And imagine off they went down without you. And there you are standing at the top of Mount Everest by yourself. What would you be thinking at that point? You see, what you might be thinking is, oh, wow, the goal of taking this on wasn't just to get to the top of the mountain. The goal was to do what? To also be able to safely come back down. What in the world does this have to do with knowing your numbers and investing? Here's what this has to do, guys. The challenge most people who are in the accumulation phase make is that they forget the goal is not to accumulate solely for the fact of accumulation. The goal is to actually get to a place where what you've accumulated, the purpose of it is to be able to produce income for you so that you do not have to live the rest of your life in phase one, where your body is always at work. And here's the thing about distribution, guys. The same strategies in your pensions, in your investment accounts, in what you're doing that work for you in accumulation, you guys will see me talk about this later, but they actually start to work against you in distribution, depending on what asset and strategy you've chosen to build wealth with. Now, in mountain climbing, here's an interesting stat. When we first looked at this conversation and using this analogy, at that time back in 2016, there was unfortunately 280 people who had lost their lives up until then climbing Mount Everest. I don't know what the numbers have been since then. But here was the interesting thing, guys. What was interesting is that 40 of them lost their lives on the way up. Which means what? 240 actually lost their lives on the way down. most people actually made it to the top. And why that's relevant for you guys is because if you're working as a first responder and you have a pension and you're maxing out your 401k or your 457, that could actually work. It's going to take a lot longer because there's no leverage, and I'll talk about that, but that could actually work. That's not the problem. The problem isn't getting to the top. It's not accumulating. It's realizing when you're finally there with no time to be proactive anymore, because now you have to choose what pension option you're going to take. You have to choose how you're going to use your retirement account. It's realizing that accumulation and having a large lump sum does not equal having consistent income for the rest of your life. Distribution is far more tricky than accumulation, the same way the descend is far more dangerous than the ascend in mountain climbing. And if you don't start with understanding the purpose of investing, then you could actually be investing using a strategy that is not the most effective, or putting the cart before the horse because you don't have the right aim in mind. So that is why knowing your number and beginning with the end in mind, guys, realizing that I'm investing so that one day I can choose whether or not I want to work, is so critical. So when I sit down with clients and we're starting this conversation, they start to get, okay, I need to think about things not from the standpoint of just simply growth and how much more do I have today than I had yesterday, but I actually need to think about things within the context of what level of income, what is my financial income, the number that I would need to not need to work. What is the actual number I would need to not need to work? I want you guys to answer that question for me, guys. If you're watching this, think about your life today and think about what it would take to actually live the life you want to live. And don't worry about what that number is. Just be as honest as you can about what it is. So if that's $10,000 a month, great. If it's $20,000 a month, great. Hey, if it's $7,000 a month, great. Whatever the number is for you, is hey, Ramie, if I had this much money coming in every month that I knew was going to consistently be able to come in good times and bad, after paying taxes, right? Because it's not what you make, it's what you keep. But if I had that level of income, I would be able to be financially free. I would know that if I continue to work in my career, it's extra income. It's not money I'm dependent on. I have income coming in from my assets. But what is that number? Guys, please answer that question. Because money's always tied to purpose and timing. And you may have a paycheck today, and that's awesome. But if you're here because you're not wanting to solely be relying on your paycheck. If you love what you do, let me be clear. If you love what you do and you simply just want to continue to do what you do today, you're totally fine with the 20-year, 30-year plan and maxing out your pension and your retirement accounts. I mean, you should still listen, but if that's what you want to do and that's all you want to do, then you're not going to need a lot of what we're talking about. Because the traditional path can work if you're okay with the trade-off on the time it's going to take and what you need to do. And I'm going to show you the two different formulas here in a second for how to create wealth. One of them you guys are all already using. But if you're here and you're going, hey, I actually want to learn how to do this outside of solely being dependent on my career, then this is exactly who this whole challenge has been put together for. You're the people, you're the men and women that this channel has been put together for. The ones who say, you know what? I actually want to make sure I'm building wealth and that my money is working as hard for me as I am for my family in parallel to me working my career. But you got to start with knowing your number first, guys. So let me give you guys an example of why this is important. If you said, hey, Ramie, for me to live comfortably, right? I don't know what states you guys live in. Some states are obviously more expensive than others, guys. Some states have income tax, some states don't. But imagine you said, it's going to take $10,000 a month after tax, net of tax, for me to be able to pay the bills, to enjoy my life, have a quality of life where I'm actually happy, we can take trips, right? That number isn't about just what does it take to pay the bills. That number is about what do you think it takes to pay the bills and have income left to actually enjoy and have an impact and experiences that you enjoy in life. But Ramie, what about inflation? What about the future? What if I decide to move? Guys, don't worry about that. Obviously, your life is not static. Your life isn't just set in place. It's going to change. It's going to evolve. But saying that you're not going to answer that question because you want to try to factor in for things you cannot is like a pilot saying we're never going to get the plane off the ground because even though our target is to get to LA, we don't know what the weather is going to be like when we go halfway through the flight. We don't understand what kind of turbulence is going to be there. Guys, you still have to have a destination in mind. But when the pilot's in the air, what can they do? They can course correct in forward motion. They don't constantly have to land the plane. People who do not answer this question are constantly having to land the plane and burn a ton of fuel to try to get the plane back off the ground. Before you ever invest $1, you should know your number. You should know what the answer to the question that I just posed is. Because it allows you to evaluate your assets and your strategy based on the thing that matters most, which is cash flow. People live their lives and they do things. I have learned after thousands and thousands of conversations, guys, over a decade plus in this industry, that people make decisions boldly based off of the cash flow they have, not the value of their retirement accounts. And if they don't understand how the value of their investment accounts lead to cash flow, lead to income, they don't feel free. They don't feel confident in a lot of the decisions they're making, especially when they can't simply outwork their spending by picking up overtime shifts, because that's no longer the case. So what's your number? So imagine it is 10,000. Imagine it's 10,000, okay? Well, then let me ask you today, because most people who are investing today, most first responders, they're using the traditional wealth formula. What is the traditional wealth formula? Remember, I said the traditional wealth formula works, guys. I said that it works because it is. It's true, it does. Well, the traditional wealth formula is where you take money, you trade time, and let me make sure that we understand. Trading time for money is not bad. We all do it. It's how we add value. We do something that solves a problem for people in whatever profession we're in. And because we're solving problems and helping people, hopefully, we get compensated. We are all trading time for money. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Okay? But it's not the only way to build wealth. And it's not the fastest, most effective way. Okay? But the traditional wealth formula that we're all taught to use is to take time, exchange it for money, and then take that money and invest it in some type of asset that can earn compounding interest. And to continue to do that over the course of 25 to 35 years. And if you do that, then you'll have wealth, right? That's the traditional wealth formula. So what does that look like? Hey, I'm working in my career as a first responder. I'm investing in my pension and my retirement accounts. And in my retirement accounts, I'm investing in the stock market. And I hear that the market can average 8 to 10%. And so if I can do that for 25 to 35 years, then I'm going to have a pension that produces a paycheck for me to replace my paycheck. And my retirement accounts should be able to produce, a monthly draw or a monthly income stream. And guess what? So far, that has been the case. What is the challenge with this then, Ramie? The challenge is two things, guys. Number one, what if it did not need to take you 25 to 35 years? Remember what I said. What if there was an additional wealth formula that instead of 25 to 35 years could actually teach you how to do it in 10 years or less? Imagine being at that same place, but in a fraction of the time. And when you look at this, guys, let me show you, this is what most people, let me tell you, that call I had earlier today with that gentleman, let me tell you guys why he had more anxiety, even though he had a couple of $1 million put away. Because how much, if you just looked at your 457s or your 401ks, guys, let me ask you guys a question. How much money do you think you need in an account like that to actually produce $10,000 a month? What do you guys think? Well, let me help you. 99.9% of financial advisors, planners, professionals who are in this industry all adhere to something called the 4% rule. What's the 4% rule? The 4% rule was created because investors understood that when you're working and the stock market's going up and down, there's this thing you're taught to do, which is to dollar cost average. Just continue to put money in every single month. Don't look at the stock market. Put money in when it's going up. You're buying shares, even though the price is going up, which means it's more expensive. Your dollars aren't going as far. But when it goes down, when the market crashes by 50%, that same systematic contribution is buying shares cheaper. So your average price is somewhere in the middle, which means over time, you're going to make money. That's dollar cost averaging. It works for you when you're in accumulation. When you're retired and you need income, it works against you because now you need money to come out when the market's going down. So you're having to sell twice as many shares down here to get the same income that you had to up here. So the 4% rule was created as a way to say, hey, what's the most amount of money someone can pull out every single year without running out of money over their life? And after thousands and thousands of back testing, stress testing, simulations, the general advice is never recommend that an investor takes out more than 4% of their assets. When it comes to, this is not your pension, this is when it comes to your investment accounts, your 401, your 457. So think about this for a second. Well, if I'm going to adhere to 4%, then what that would mean is that I would need to accumulate over my working years, guys. I would need to accumulate somewhere between $3.5 to $4 million to actually be able to net $10,000 a month. 3.5 at 4% is $100,000 a year, which is about $11,667 a month. You have to account for taxes. That's why I say between 3.5 to 4, depending on what state you live. You may owe state income tax. You may not. You may only owe federal income tax. But I want you to think about that. Using the traditional wealth formula, you're purely playing an accumulation game. And so it takes a lot of time because of this. Here's the key that you do not have when you traditionally just use that formula. You do not have leverage. And it's very challenging to create wealth with no leverage. You guys are going to learn about this between the rest of today, tomorrow, and the rest of these sessions. But the beautiful thing, what's the saving grace traditionally for first responders? The saving grace is this, your pension. Your pension is a fixed income. And I'll teach you guys how to do income planning and pension max later on in this challenge, guys. But that pension is the saving grace. If you did not have that pension, guys, how many of you guys know it would be challenging to try to accumulate your way to having enough money using the industry recommended 4% rule to actually be able to have enough saved up to have wealth and financial freedom? How many of you guys right now looking at how much you're putting away, what your current value of your investment accounts are, see a future where you're going to have 3.5 to 4 million or more? For most guys and first responders, men and women doing this, very few. And so think about how much pressure and dependency is on this pension. A ton. If you remove that, it's like the block in the Jenga that makes this whole thing topple down. And I'm not saying obviously you have a pension, right? For most of you. But it's not, pensions aren't what they used to be, and they're not off the table for restructuring for things nowadays that you would not have ever thought would have been there. So what if something changes in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, and your pensions get adjusted and don't look the same? Where does that leave you? With 5, 10, 15 years of time that you could have already been proactive in planning and building wealth, putting assets in in your picture that you don't have now, because someone else controlled the lever of the thing that you were the most dependent on. This is why it's so risky to not actually have this information and put these strategies to work. So what is the new formula and how do we apply it? The new wealth formula is not just trading time and then taking money and investing it. The new wealth formula says, well, look, we need to have leverage. Leverage is the ability, guys. Listen, this is what leverage is. Let me help you guys understand this. Guys, leverage is the ability to access more value with less effort and capital. I'll say that again. Leverage is the ability to access more value with less effort and capital. That is what leverage is. If you think about, highway patrol officer, someone gets a flat tire, they pull over and they need their tires changed, right? There's a tool that law enforcement officer and that person can't pick up that vehicle by themselves and change the tire. They have no leverage. It's pure effort. It's pure addition. There's no multiplication there. But all of a sudden, this tool called a jack provides them leverage, and that leverage is now able to accomplish things in such small amounts of time and effort that they didn't have before. Investing is the same thing. You need to have leverage. Or else, I'm telling you guys, you are playing a time for money game, and there's a lot of dependency and variables when you play that game, such as your health, your ability to continue to operate, the investment world as it relates to the pension funds not changing. There's a lot of variables that you do not control. So leverage is the ability to access more value with less effort and capital. So give me an example of this in the new wealth formula. So now we take money, we use investment strategies that have leverage. Those investment strategies, because they have leverage, you guys are going to see us talk about this even tomorrow, all of a sudden now are able to create the same level of returns in less times. And now what took 30 to 40 years to do in the traditional plan, you can do in 5 to 10 years because leverage is there. And when you look at the wealth formula as well, you have to learn how to be taxed. You have to look at tax advantages, guys. You have to become tax efficient. How many of you guys have ever heard they talk about wealthy individuals and big companies and they say they don't pay their fair share in tax, right? We need to tax the wealthy. Guys, when you hear that, just understand that the tax code was written to encourage, and it was written to reduce your tax bill, not increase it. And you guys are going to see me talk about this. When you take leverage and tax advantages, you now reduce the time it takes. You reduce the time it takes to create wealth. And time is so important to me for my clients, guys, because, guys, when you sit down with someone and you're talking to them about their life, their career as a first responder, as a firefighter, as an EMT, as a medical professional, all of the different levels of first responders. When you're talking to someone and they're explaining all of what they've done and they retire, 5 years go by, 10 years go by, you can make money back. Things can happen and, you can redeem that. What you can't make back is time. And people who are retired are very aware of this. You can see the look of resentment and regret. And you start to, after looking at that for 10 years, and thankfully that's not every client's ever walked in, but when you see it so often, you can sense it. And I don't want you guys to have that. And so part of that is just because people they did not actually become proactive and intentionally realize, what is it that I'm after? If this is my number today, that number is not a cap. Once I hit that number, I have skill sets and knowledge now on how to build wealth, and I can increase my lifestyle. This number could go to 12,000, 15,000. But all of a sudden now I'm investing with an income mindset first, because income is how you are able to maintain your life, to be able to be there for your family, and to be able to have an impact beyond yourself. How many of you guys know when you want to do things for your friends, your family, when you want to help others, you don't give them a piece of your 401k statement? That's probably not what you guys do. You don't cut out a piece of your pension statement. What do? You actually use income. But when you see people and you talk to them about investing, they make it all about growth. And I know that sounds like, well, Ramie, wouldn't it be conventional wisdom to say if I have more money in my 401k, I'm going to have more income? No, that's not how it works. Because you're not thinking about the fact that when you put money in an account and you don't pay the tax bill for 20, 30 years, not all that money is yours. Income strategies are very different than just growth strategies. Assuming the more you have in that portfolio means the more income you're going to be able to generate is like assuming if I drive a car to the beach, it should be able to get me across the lake. Stick around and you'll see this stuff come to life more. So when it comes to then using the ultimate wealth formula, leverage and tax advantages, you have to ask yourself this question. There are 3 asset classes in the financial world, 3 main ones. There's business ownership. You can go build a business today, especially online, guys, right? You can build a business or you can buy a business. There's paper assets, the stock market, right? Paper assets, you have stocks, you have bonds, and you have derivatives of stocks and bonds, mutual funds, index funds, right? A lot of advice over what you should do there. A lot of opinion, I should say, over what you should do there, right? There's commodities, gold, silver, crypto, depending on what you believe fits into one of these 2. I'm not going to get into that here. I'll do a bonus session for you guys on that. And then there's real estate, hard assets, right? Single family, multifamily, storage units, mobile homes, what Mike mentioned, right? So there's real estate, there's commodities, there's paper assets, and business ownership. These are really the 3 main ones: business ownership, paper assets, and real estate. And guys, here's what you have to understand about investing. To create wealth, you have to go from being a passive investor to being an active investor. Here's the difference between passive and active. Passive investors invest money into investments, so their money is at work, but their time is not. So you're trying to use money to grow wealth. Active investors, they're intentional and they use money plus skill sets, which give them leverage as well, but they're using money and skill sets or money and leverage to grow wealth. Active investors are able to build wealth faster because they're obviously introducing leverage and skill sets to the equation. So what's an example of this? Here's the reality, guys. Here's the beautiful thing. It's not a question of or. It's like, you don't have to say, well, Ramie, do I stop doing what I'm doing now and just try to figure this? No, guys, what we're going to show you guys is designed to run in parallel. Keep in mind, Michael, as you guys can see, I know I like to joke and say Michael is an investor / advisor in disguise in a law enforcement uniform. But how many of you guys know and have heard Michael's an active law enforcement first responder? He's not just police. He's fire, EMT, SWAT. Hopefully that's okay to share, Mike. If not, I already did, so apologize. But the point is, you can run these in parallel. It's a question of and, not or. But you have to get to work and do this, guys. Because the world, I'm telling you guys, there's going to be more uncertainty, but there's going to be opportunity for people who have skill sets and understand how to apply leverage. So you can be passive or active in any one of those major asset classes. In business ownership, being passive would be buying a business, right? Franchising. Active would be building a business. Taking an active role, right? In the paper asset world, passive would be long-term buy and hold. You just buy index funds, mutual funds. You don't even look at it. You just continue to do that whole dollar cost averaging thing. You're just putting your money to work. Active would be learning how to actually trade the market, right? Either as a day or swing trader. That's active investing. That's a skill set. And they use tools that have leverage, those types of investors. Real estate, which is one of the greatest ways to create wealth today. Real estate is one of the greatest ways to create wealth because of a few things. But in real estate, passive investing would be buying property that you can rent out, right? Whether that's you being a landlord in single family, I'm just going to abbreviate, multifamily, or, storage unit, something along those lines. Active would be what? If I'm an active real estate investor, you might be doing fix and flip, right? Your time and money is very constantly at work. The beautiful thing about real estate, guys, is what? If you have the right skill sets and you know how to identify property, then you can use leverage on the passive side. You can actually have property and assets that are working for you, that are able to produce income and wealth. Because with real estate, it's not just about the value and the appreciation, it's also about the cash flow. If you think about the promise of every politician, this is not about politics, but I just want to be clear, and I want to show you guys this. What do most politicians run on as a promise? Whether they're Democrat, Republican, Independent, doesn't matter. There's two major promises almost every politician makes. As a matter of fact, look out for this next year during the elections. Every side's going to make these two promises. Is what? Jobs and what? Affordable housing. So when you look at the tax code and you look at why they don't tax the wealthy are business owners who provide jobs and real estate investors who provide affordable housing. That's why they give them so many tax breaks. They're doing things to add value to society, to the community, so they actually get to increase their cash flow and reduce their taxes and build wealth faster. So guys, you have to know your number. You have to know your number so that when you sit down and you look at your current investments, and I'm going to share with you guys how to do this, you can ask yourself, okay, here's the value of my assets. Here's what I've done up till this point, up till this challenge. If I continue to do this, right, or if I stopped right now, how much could this total value produce in income for me? And if I continue to use just this, is that actually going to get me to where I want to be in the next 10 years? And if the answer is yes, congratulations. But if the answer is no, what are you going to do to change that? Because this is the plan you're on right now. It's the long-term plan, long-term, low control. Subject to change based on factors outside of your circle of influence. But if you know, hey, okay, here's the inventory of what I've done up till this point. I want a plan that can run in parallel. I need to make a shift, redirect and course correct so that I can actually accomplish the objective sooner. Then you need to understand how to evaluate assets that have more leverage, more tax advantages, and that you can take and create more income sooner than later. Because the traditional investment game of just buy and hold and trying to accumulate your way to enough to live off of 4%, guys, it's incredibly challenging. It's incredibly challenging. You have to consistently save and invest the same amount every single month, uninterrupted. And you have to kind of pray and hope that the market can average what they say. And I'm a student of the market, guys. I love investing in the market. And I'm going to show you guys some tips and tricks that's going to help you guys actually in your current investment accounts enhance those returns, potentially enhance those returns, guys, down the, in a few days. But the point of this is I wanted you guys to have the clarity. Investing is about starting with income first and then asking yourself what asset class is capable out of the three main ones of producing that level of income in the most efficient way that gives me the most leverage sooner than later. Because if you do that, all of a sudden when you sit down, money and your financial life starts to change. The game starts to change. You start to prioritize the right things first. And that's the key. So the homework and the action step for today, okay? The action step for today, guys. Today, you guys learned about knowing your number, understanding accumulation versus distribution, realizing why the truth about these retirement accounts, these 457s, these 401ks are fine to use. If you're getting a match, that's okay. We're going to talk about some tax strategies and some stuff, but they're not designed for distribution. They're designed for accumulation. Even though the goal, there goes the market bell, even though the goal is distribution. So you have to have that plan. So we've gone over a lot. The homework is to know your number because we're going to start to look at and evaluate asset classes. I'm going to show you guys the best strategy over the next 2 days in each asset class that allows you to move from a passive to an active investor. These strategies have leverage. They're more tax advantaged, and you guys are going to learn about them and these skill sets. Mike and I and Holly, we're going to uncover this tomorrow. So I'm excited to see you guys about that. So to share that with you guys. So I'm going to bring on Hall to close this out. And we're going to rock and roll from there. It's Mike who's actually on with us. So
not
Mike,
Holly. It's okay. Hey, Ram, I just want to thank you. And you guys, if you're watching this again, this is so important. It's not just knowing your number, but there's actually some very critical time stamps or time blocks that are in your career. Everything from, how you select before you're about to retire, what selections you make with your pension. That's a one-time choice only selection that you get to make. You cannot reverse it. You cannot change it. Understanding what selection you're going to make. There's also very serious risk in our industry of like, if you're going to build wealth, one of those tools, part of this big plan is utilizing life insurance, utilizing a cash value permanent policy to actually build wealth. It's just one of the small tools that we use. But in our career, you're also one day away from not being insurable. And it's not a scare tactic, but you look around your department and look, there's people there that are no longer insurable, missing out on one of these, key pillars to build wealth that they can no longer use because of an injury or something happened at work. So knowing your number, understanding some of these critical decisions, these time points are so important, because if you push this off and you do not actually implement it now, you may not be able to tomorrow or the next day or the next month. So Ramie nailed that perfectly. He had some great quotes today. Just understanding wealth leverage, tax advantages, all of these amazing principles to help you understand why this is so critical. So I guess I will bring in Holly now. I think you guys want to see her more than you want to see me. I'll jump out of this chair, but Ram, I do want to thank you for everyone watching this, because it's literally getting better every single day. Again, share the link, bring people on board. Our goal is to just share this message and really help create wealth for this industry, change families, change the way you show up to work. And that way we can all actually enjoy that retirement together. So here, I'll let you jump in. I'll get out of the way.
Yeah, I'm just going to pop in really quick and just remind you guys that we are on for day 3 tomorrow. And day 3, we're going to be going over some really awesome concepts and principles. We talked a little bit deeper about those wealth categories, the wealth vehicles. And tomorrow is called Good, Better, Best, because as we talked about the vehicles today, we're going to go into what's good, what's better, and what's best. So the best path to retirement and how you can ensure you are on that path. We're going to hear the benefits and problems regarding real estate and how you can play the game, and learn about the most unique industry to leverage for wealth creating, like Ramie talked about today, really leveraging and getting into the multiplication game. Forget math, or addition. No one wants addition when you can have multiplication. And we're going to talk about some secrets that a lot of people don't know. And so you're going to want to be on for that, and then learn how to invest or what investment is the best to create short-term or long-term cash flow, and really help you understand how you can get on board for that as well. So you're not going to want to miss tomorrow. Tomorrow, same time, same place, whether you're watching in Facebook or on YouTube Live. It's been so awesome to hang out with you guys, either live or during the replay. Maybe you're watching this as a replay. So good on you for showing up. Let us know if you were live or replay. It's always awesome for us to get to see your guys' questions or interact with you on that level as well. So be on the lookout for that replay email. And every morning we will send you a reminder email with an hour out to give you a heads up of when we're going live. But tomorrow it will be 12 noon Pacific Standard Time. Can't wait to see you guys then. Have a great rest of your Wednesday, and we'll talk to you later. Bye.